I used to believe that the worst pain a parent could give their child was disappointment. I was wrong. It's the moment they decide you no longer belong to them. And they're proud of it. On the night of my graduation dinner, my dad, Richard Carter, slid a white envelope across the table as if he were finalizing a corporate deal. My mother straightened her pearls. My sister, Chloe, lifted her phone, whispering, "She's about to break." The restaurant hushed. Forks paused midair. I opened the envelope. Thick paper, black ink, 4 signatures. A single sentence that cracked something deep inside me. "We, the Carters, hereby relinquish all parental ties to Emily Carter." My graduation present. My mother watched me, expecting tears. My father waited for me to fall apart. Instead, I folded the papers, placed them in my bag, and said the only thing none of them expected. "Thank you." Because none of them knew who would call my name next. Growing up in the Carter household felt less like being part of a family and more like being evaluated by a panel of judges. Everything, every gesture, every breath, every achievement was measured, weighed, compared. And somehow, no matter what I did, I always came up light. My father, Richard Carter, wasn't a dad in the traditional sense. He didn't ask about feelings. He asked about outcomes. "What's the ROI on your choices, Emily?" he once said when I told him I wanted to pursue data science. I was 16. My mother, Linda, was no different, except she disguised her judgment behind a polished smile and perfectly pressed dresses. She loved saying, "We raise winners in this family," while her eyes slid right past me and landed on my older sister, Chloe, the Carter masterpiece. Chloe fit their mold effortlessly. Glossy hair, perfect grades, effortless charm. If the Carters hosted a dinner party, I'd always be introduced last. "This is Emily," my mother would say with that apologetic lilt. "She's still figuring things out." I hated that line. It treated me like a half-finished sentence. Guests would nod politely before turning back to Chloe, asking about her internships, her modeling shoots, her bright future. Meanwhile, I stood beside the champagne tower, holding my breath, waiting for anyone to ask me something real. They rarely did. At home, dinners were even worse. The dining room smelled of cedar polish and quiet expectations. The chandelier above the table cast fractured light across the plates, making everyone look like reflections in broken glass. My father talked numbers and mergers. My mother talked charity galas. Chloe talked about herself. I learned early to keep my voice low, my questions quieter, and my dreams invisible. One night, when I was 19, I worked up the courage to speak. "Dad, I got offered a research assistant position," I said softly. He didn't look up from his wine. "Unpaid? For now, but then it's not an achievement." Chloe smirked behind her water glass. I remember gripping my fork so hard my knuckles turned white. I remember wanting to stand, slam the chair back, scream that success isn't always immediate, that value isn't just measured in dollars. But I didn't. Because in the Carter house, silence wasn't just expected. It was survival. That night I lay awake in my room, staring at the ceiling. The walls were thin. I could hear my parents praising Chloe for her discipline, her potential, her shine. And in that darkness, I realized something that would follow me for years. I wasn't the daughter they bragged about. I was the daughter they edited out. But being erased has a strange consequence. You learn to build yourself quietly, steadily out of the pieces they fail to notice. And one day, those pieces become sharper than their judgment. People assume that being the quiet one means you're not trying, that you're not fighting. But quiet doesn't mean weak. Quiet just means no one bothered to listen. During my sophomore year, I started stacking achievements like Armor scholarships, research fellowships, academic awards. If there was a competition, I applied. If there was a lecture, I attended. I lived inside the library so much the night guards started learning my coffee order. One afternoon, I forwarded my parents an email. I had won a National Merit Award. Top 1%. It felt like something big, something they couldn't ignore. My mother replied 6 hours later. "Congrats, sweetheart. Busy today. We'll talk later." We never did. Chloe found me in the kitchen that weekend, leaning against the marble counter like she owned the floor beneath her. She said, flipping her perfect hair. "You're smart, okay? I mean, like nerd smart. But you're not the kind of smart that gets noticed." I froze. Noticed by who? By anyone who matters. She said it so casually, as if it were a well-known fact. Then she sashayed off to another charity shoot, the kind where she smiled for cameras and claimed she wanted to give back, despite never having worked a minimum wage job in her life. I should have been used to it by then, but every time they dismissed me, a small part of me cracked, and another part hardened. Around that time, my professor, Dr. Hudson, approached me after class. "Emily, you ever consider working on applied AI research?" I blinked. "Me?" "Yes, you. You see patterns others miss. I have a project. I think you'd be perfect for it." That moment changed everything. I joined a small team, just me, Maya, and Lucas, working on a predictive routing AI for logistics companies. It wasn't glamorous, but it was meaningful. We spent nights eating cold pizza, coding until sunrise, arguing over algorithms, laughing at bugs in the system. It was the first time in years I'd felt equal, seen. Of course, my family didn't get it. One Sunday dinner, my mother asked how school was going. I told her about the AI project. She blinked twice, confused. "AI? Logistics?" she said. "Does anyone even care about that?" My father didn't look up from his phone. "Emily, if you're putting this much time into something, make sure it's profitable." "It will be," I said quietly. He hummed, the kind of dismissive sound that said he didn't believe me. Later that night, in my room, I stared at my open laptop, lines of code, glowing blue. It felt like a different world from the one downstairs. A world where people built things, created things, instead of tearing others down. My efforts weren't enough for them, but they were building something bigger than their approval. Piece by piece, those efforts would become the very thing they never saw coming. 2 days before graduation, the family group chat lit up 3 bubbles, 3 names. Richard, Linda, Chloe. A message popped up. "Graduation dinner for Emily. Maison Aurelia, 7 p.m. Dress appropriately." No emoji. No warmth. Just orders. I clicked on the reservation link out of habit. The guest list appeared. Carter, Richard. Carter, Linda. Carter, Chloe. There was no Carter, Emily. My own graduation dinner, and I wasn't on the guest list. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A glitch. A formatting issue. Then Chloe texted me privately. "Don't overthink it." That sentence sat in my chest like a weight. Like she knew exactly what she was saying, and exactly what was coming. I stared at the phone for a long time, waiting for a follow-up message. Something normal. Something sisterly. Nothing came. That night, my apartment felt colder than usual. I sat on the edge of my bed, scrolling through old family photos, the curated, carefully staged Carter portraits. Christmas. Easter brunch. Chloe in the center. Dad with a proud hand on her shoulder. Mom angled toward the nearest camera. And me, Emily Carter, always slightly off to the side. Half lit, half seen, half included. There was one picture I couldn't tear my eyes away from. Chloe smiling wide, holding her acceptance letter to Stanford. I was behind her, blurry in the background, holding the camera bag, not the spotlight. My entire childhood could be summarized by that photo. I closed the gallery, opened it again, closed it, opened it. It hit me with a clarity so sharp it felt like a cut. My family had been preparing for years to remove me. The signs had always been there. The way Dad avoided eye contact when I mentioned my research. The way Mom praised Chloe publicly but praised me privately, only when no one could hear. The way Chloe said "our family" like it didn't include me. The subtle rearranging of chairs. The moments they took credit for Chloe's success but treated mine like accidents. I just never allowed myself to believe it. But now, seeing my absence on that reservation list, my own dinner, I understood something brutal. They didn't plan to celebrate me. They planned to separate from me. I remember gripping the edge of my desk as the city lights flickered against my window. Cars passed below, each one a reminder that the world outside kept moving, even when yours was falling apart. My inbox buzzed with emails, congratulations from professors, internship offers, project inquiries, all achievements they never saw, or never cared to. For a moment, I felt a sting in my chest, a quiet grief for the family I thought I had. But beneath it, something else stirred, something hard, steady, a thought. If they were preparing for something, so was I. The dinner wouldn't go the way they expected. Not this time. I was done being the girl pushed off to the side of the frame. The morning after that reservation shock, I woke up earlier than usual before the sun, before the noise, before the doubts had a chance to crawl back into my head. My apartment was dim, painted in soft lines of blue from the streetlights outside. For the first time in a long time, the quiet didn't suffocate me. It steadied me. An email notification blinked on my screen. Subject: Commencement Update. Emily Carter selected as student speaker. My breath caught. Dr. Hudson had nominated me for the Young Innovators Award, and for the commencement speech, something the university only gave to one student each year. I reread the email 3 times until the words felt real. Moments later, my phone buzzed again. Dr. Hudson, this is your moment, Emily. Own it quietly. Quietly. The word landed in my chest like a spark. My whole life, silence had been forced on me. Now, for the first time, I was choosing it and using it. That day, instead of crying or spiraling, I started organizing. Every certificate I'd earned, every scholarship letter, every research approval, every line of code I'd written for the AI project, I digitized and filed it. I created encrypted folders, time-stamped archives, physical binders, not for my family, not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right, because I knew something they didn't. My work meant something. My mind meant something. And soon, someone was going to recognize it. Maya and Lucas came over that night, arms full of takeout boxes and unfiltered excitement. The optimization model is stable," Lucas said. "The simulations hit 14%. That's industry-changing." Maya nearly danced across my living room. "We're presenting next week, and trust me, companies are watching." I told them about the dinner, the reservation, the absence of my name. Maya froze mid-bite. "They didn't include you? In your own graduation dinner?" Lucas muttered. "Your family is insane." I laughed softly, not out of humor but out of release. For once, I wasn't defending them. That night, after they left, I brewed a fresh cup of coffee and sat by the window, rain streaking the glass like quiet applause. It was the first time I saw my life not as a series of failures in my parents' eyes, but as a series of victories they never paid attention to. And that gave me power. I rearranged my desk, aligning everything with almost ceremonial precision, laptop centered, folders stacked by importance, my project notes arranged like stepping stones towards something greater. Then I slipped 2 documents into a sleek gray folder, one I'd bought years ago but had never used because I felt I had nothing worthy to put inside it. Now, I had more than enough. As midnight approached, I whispered to myself, if they expect me to crumble, they're not paying attention. And maybe they never had. But the world was about to, because quietly, very quietly, I had started to rise. The week of the university's startup symposium felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, terrifying, thrilling, and irreversible. Every night leading up to it, I rehearsed my presentation until my voice cracked. I practiced transitions, refined visuals, corrected data models, and debugged code until my laptop fan sounded like a helicopter. On the morning of the event, Maya handed me a coffee with a shaky grin. "You ready to change your life?" Lucas added, "Or at least destroy the logistics market as we know it." I smiled, but my stomach twisted. Standing backstage, I could hear the muffled applause from the previous team's pitch. Their idea had been impressive, but the audience's reaction felt different, polite, lukewarm. When my name was called, the room fell oddly quiet. I walked to the center, the projector light warm on my face, and clicked to the first slide. "I'm Emily Carter," I began. "And this is a system that doesn't just predict routes, it predicts savings." I showed the graphs, the simulations, the cost reductions, but the room didn't react until I reached the live demo. The numbers updated on screen. Fuel cost, down 14.3%. Delivery time, down 11.8%. Error margin, near zero. Then, silence. Heavy, electric. And suddenly, applause. Not polite, not lukewarm, but loud, real. When the lights came back up, a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit stood near the stage, watching me with a look I couldn't decipher. He approached slowly, parting the crowd. "You built this?" His voice was deep, steady. "Every line of code," I said, my heart pounding. He extended a hand. "Daniel Brooks, CEO of Brookstone Logistics." My breath caught. Brookstone was one of the largest logistics companies in the Midwest. Your model is disruptive, he said, but more importantly, it's fair. It prioritizes efficiency without exploiting drivers or forcing unrealistic timelines. I blinked. No one in my family had ever praised me in a way that made me feel seen. But this stranger did after 5 minutes. We met again the next afternoon. Then again 2 days later. By the third meeting, Daniel slid a folder across the cafe table, the same way my father would one day slide a disownment letter across a dinner table. Inside was a letter of intent. Brookstone Logistics wanted to acquire our technology for $6.5 million, plus offering me a director of optimization position after graduation. I stared at the number until it blurred, my hands trembling. Why me? I whispered. Daniel leaned forward. Because you built something brilliant while the people around you failed to notice. And that says everything I need to know. For a moment, I couldn't speak. No one had ever framed my struggle as strength. When I finally signed the document, a wave of calm washed over me. Not triumph, not pride, balance. This was the life I had built from silence. Next week, my family would hand me their letter. But I already had my own, and it was worth far more than they ever imagined. The night before my graduation dinner, the city outside my window hummed with summer heat and distant traffic. Inside, my apartment felt strangely still, like the world had paused for just long enough for me to inhale before everything changed. I spread the documents across my desk. The signed letter of intent, the acquisition agreement, the official valuation summary, the employment contract, all stamped, all sealed, all real. The same kind of papers my father worshipped, except these didn't come from him. These came from me. I slipped each document into the sleek gray folder I had bought years ago but never felt worthy of using. Tonight, it finally had a purpose. My hands moved slower than usual, almost ceremonially, as if I knew I was preparing evidence for a trial, one where I wasn't the accused, but the witness to my own rebirth. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "See you tomorrow, darling. Big night." I stared at the words, tasting the bitterness beneath them. Big night. She wasn't wrong. Just not for the reason she thought. I laid out my outfit for tomorrow. A navy blazer, clean white top, subtle jewelry. Nothing flashy, just intentional. Professional. The kind of look that said, "I don't need your approval." I brought my own. Then came the harder part. I opened the drawer beside my bed and pulled out an old birthday card. The one my parents gave me when I turned 10. The front had a glittery star on it. Inside, in my mother's handwriting, "To our little dreamer." I used to love that nickname. Until I realized they didn't actually believe it. They liked the idea of a dreamy child. Not a determined woman. I placed the card beside the folder. Past and present, side by side. One written in fantasy, the other grounded in proof. A knock startled me. Maya and Lucas, arms full of late-night snacks. "We're not letting you freak out alone," Maya declared, barging inside. Lucas tossed a bag of chips on the table. "You good?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Tomorrow they're going to show their true colors," Maya snorted, "as if they haven't already." We laughed, but there was an ache beneath it. When they left, I dimmed the lights and returned to the window. The city glowed warm, alive, indifferent. The view made me realize something. My family had never been the center of my world. They were just the loudest noise in it. And tomorrow, that noise would finally go quiet. I picked up the gray folder, holding it close for a moment before placing it gently into my bag. Let them hand me their letter. Let them think they're ending something. Because in less than 24 hours, they would discover the truth. I no longer needed a family to validate me. I had built a future that stood on its own, strong, documented, undeniable. The storm was coming, but for the first time, I wasn't the one who would be swept away. Graduation day felt like stepping into sunlight after living years underground. But that warmth didn't last long. By evening, I stood in front of Maison Aurelia, the restaurant my parents adored, white tablecloths, gold chandeliers, violin music soft enough to make you whisper. I smoothed my blazer, steadied my breath, and walked in. The hostess looked up. "Reservation? Carter party," I said. She scanned the list and hesitated exactly as I expected. My name wasn't there, but she forced a smile. "Right this way, Ms. Carter." The hesitation in her voice said everything. The dining room was glowing under chandeliers shaped like frozen waterfalls. And at the far corner table my family sat under that halo of expensive light. My father, Richard, raised a hand with the fake warmth he reserved for colleagues. My mother, Linda, beamed like a politician. And, Chloe. She angled her phone immediately, camera already recording. I walked toward them slowly, each step echoing more loudly than the violin. Emily, darling. My mother cooed, standing to kiss the air beside my cheek. Such a big night. Sit, my father said, as if commanding an employee. I lowered myself into the chair. My hands stayed folded in my lap, steady, unreadable. A waiter appeared instantly, placing a pristine white envelope by my plate. I knew. I already knew. But my father needed his performance. He cleared his throat. Emily, he began. We've been thinking about the future. My mother chimed in, her pearls catching the light. Your choices haven't aligned with the family's direction. Chloe added, we just want what's best for all of us. She said it with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. My father tapped the envelope. This is from all of us. Chloe lifted her phone higher, whispering, this is it. She's gonna break. The entire restaurant fell into a hush, sensing drama. I picked up the envelope. The paper was thick, expensive, formal, legally binding. Inside, a complete disownment document. 4 signatures, every tie cut, every debt severed, every connection erased. My graduation gift. I set the paper down gently. My mother leaned forward. Emily, say something. So I did. Thank you. The word struck the table like a dropped knife. My father blinked. My mother stiffened. Chloe's phone wavered. Excuse me? My father asked. I said thank you. I folded the document once, twice, calm, deliberate. This makes things easier. Their confusion was instant and delicious. Before they could recover, I reached into my bag and placed my folder on the table. Gray, clean, heavy. My mother frowned. What is that? I opened it toward them. The first page gleamed under the chandelier. Brookstone Logistics Acquisition Agreement. $6.5 million. Emily Carter, Director of Optimization. Chloe gasped so loudly, heads turned. My father leaned closer, disbelief tightening his jaw. This isn't real. It's very real, I said softly. My mother's voice cracked. You sold something? Without us? I built something, I corrected, and then I sold it. Chloe was flipping through pages now. Breath quick. This? Daniel Brooks? The Daniel Brooks? He signed this? I tapped the bottom corner gently. Look closely. That's his signature. My father's face went pale. He looked at me the way people look at strangers they underestimated. Emily, why didn't you tell us? I stared at him, letting the silence answer for me. Because you never asked? Because you never cared? Because you never believed? But all I said was, you taught me results mattered, so here are my results. My mother shook her head in disbelief. We didn't know. We didn't know you were doing all this. You never looked. My father swallowed hard. Emily, maybe we should reconsider. I shut the folder. The soft click was louder than any shout. Keep your letter, I said, sliding the disownment papers back toward them. I already have my own. The irony hung in the air like shattered glass. Chloe's phone was no longer recording. She had lowered it, slowly, as if witnessing her own defeat. For the first time in my life, my father had no words. My mother had no smile. Chloe had no audience. I rose to my feet. This family never saw me, I said, voice steady, but the world did. I turned away. Behind me, I heard my mother whisper, what do we do? My father whispered back, nothing. There's nothing we can do. Their silence followed me across the restaurant. Not heavy, not painful, but satisfying. I stepped out into the warm night air, my heart beating quietly, powerfully. The street lamps glowed. The world felt bigger, lighter, finally mine. Behind me, inside the restaurant, my family remained frozen under the chandelier's glow, exactly where they had tried to keep me, my entire life. But I had walked out, and I wasn't coming back. The night air outside Maison Aurelia felt different, as if the world had shifted by a degree, and only I noticed. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, letting the cool breeze wash over me, grounding me after the storm I had just walked through. My phone buzzed. A message from Chloe. Emily, please, can we talk? I didn't know they were going to. That wasn't supposed to happen. I stared at the message, the dots blinking as if she were desperate for redemption. I turned my phone face down. For once, silence was not something forced on me. It was something I chose. I walked home slowly, each step feeling lighter than the last. The city hummed around me, delivery trucks, passing cars, the distant rumble of a train. Ordinary sounds. Honest sounds. Nothing like the artificial perfection of my family's world. When I reached my apartment, the hallway lights flickered softly. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and exhaled a long, steady breath. I felt like I'd been holding my entire life. I placed my bag on the counter and set the gray folder next to it. The documents inside were still pristine, untouched by the chaos of the dinner. My future felt the same. Protected, deliberate, undeniable. Then I pulled out the disownment papers. I didn't reread them. They didn't deserve that. I folded the sheets neatly and slid them behind the frame of my newly printed degree. A quiet place. Almost ceremonial. Not hidden. Not honored. Just placed in order. Evidence of the moment they let go of me. And the moment I let go of them, I made a cup of tea, the steam rising in gentle spirals. For the first time, my apartment didn't feel lonely. It felt like mine. My phone buzzed again, another message from Chloe. I didn't open it. Some things aren't meant to be answered. Some things are meant to echo into silence. I moved to the window and watched the city stretching into the distance, lights blinking in rhythm, people moving with purpose, life unfolding without hesitation. And in the glass, I saw myself reflected back. Not the forgotten daughter, not the shadow of Chloe Carter, but a woman who walked out of a room designed to suffocate her, and breathed anyway. Families break loudly, but peace rebuilds quietly. They ended our relationship, but I ended their power. And silence, finally, felt like freedom.